Now, here's Ed Bernstein.
Hi, I'm pleased to have a prolific community advocate, leader, and fireman, honorary fireman for the community, Don Snyder. Your background is so varied. I'd like to go through it a little bit. You're currently let me start where you are now, president of UNLV.
Correct.
Which is kind of, is it a temporary job?
It is. It's technically acting president, which means that I'm here to bridge the gap between bridge the time between the former president and the future president, whoever that is and whenever it is. But I don't stand for being appointed to be the permanent.
So is there a search for a future, or how is that working?
Yeah, there's a national search underway right now. It's been underway for the past few months. I stay out of that, so I don't know exactly what the status is, but my sense is that it's progressing very well. This university attracts a lot of attention, and I think that the crop of candidates I've heard is pretty good.
Let's go through a little bit of your background, because it's so vast. You started in the banking business, correct? You grew up where?
Well, I was born in South Dakota. Kind of grew up in South Dakota and then Wyoming, and then when I graduated from the University of Wyoming, I moved to California as a banker, and so that started my banking career. And I spent 22 years with First Interstate Bank until they were acquired by Wells Fargo Bank, and that's what brought me to Nevada. In 1987, I came here as the chairman, president, and CEO of First Interstate Bank of Nevada. And that got me involved not only in the banking business here, but in the community in a big way.
And then you subsequently moved on to, and I may not be doing this in order, the Fremont Street experience, or is there something?
Yeah, right after I left First Interstate Bank and decided to stay here, I was asked by the downtown hotel property owners to help bring them together and essentially do a private sector, public sector partnership with the city in what became the Fremont Street experience. And so worked with some of the real legends in the industry at the time.
And you got involved in that because I guess First Interstate Bank was somewhat headquartered downtown, and right, so you spent a lot of time downtown in those days.
And most of the gaming guys were customers of the bank, or I certainly knew them from the bank, and so they asked me to get involved, and I did, and that got me a little bit closer to the gaming industry and certainly some of the legends in the industry. But also during that time was when Bill Boyd approached me and asked if I'd be interested in help starting a new bank, and we did, and that bank is today Bank of Nevada, and it's part of the Western Alliance Bank Corporation, a publicly held bank, and we just celebrated our 20th anniversary.
He also got you interested in working at Boyd Gaming.
Yeah.
Right, because you moved over there as well.
That's right. So in 1996, right after the Fremont Street experience opened, I joined the board and then joined the management team, and in January of 1997 became the president of Boyd Gaming, and was president for a little over 8 years.
Okay, and that not being enough, then you got involved over at UNLV. Now I know I'm skipping a whole lot of other community things and fundraising activities that you did in between, but then you went to the Harris School.
Well, first, I mean, in 2005, I retired from Boyd Gaming, and the retirement was primarily triggered by the fact that the Performing Arts Center, before it had the Smith name on it at that time, was at a point where it needed to move forward, and I'd been involved with that project since 1994. And in 2005, when I retired from Boyd Gaming, Myron Martin and I worked very closely together, and we brought the Smith Center to life. But that consumed me for a lot of time. I've always served on boards of directors, corporate boards, and things like that, and other community organizations. But that was really a very intense time, but a rewarding time in terms of what we've done with the Smith Center. And so it was in 2010 that I joined the university. I was asked to be the dean of the Hotel College, the William F. Harrah College of Hotel Administration at UNLV, and so I started that in the summer of 2010, and was dean until I was asked to become the acting president in February of this year.
That's why I'm calling you a fireman, because when I think about the things you just talked about, every one of them has succeeded as a result of you being there. So I mean, look, First Interstate Bank, you know, brought up by Wells Fargo, you know, huge, you know, banking successful company. Boyd Gaming, you know, very, very successful. The Smith Center. I mean, what can you say about the Smith Center? I mean, it was a dream. It was a piece of paper at one time, right?
It was, and it's one of those things that people said could never be done, and that makes it a little bit more rewarding. But the thing that really makes it rewarding is to see what it is now. I get people coming up to me all the time and say, "You don't know me, but I just want to say thank you," and that's very rewarding. But I've been blessed by the ability to do a lot of different things during my professional career, both professionally as well as in terms of community work. And so I got involved with the university when I first moved here in 1987. I've been involved. I adopted the university just as a lot of us did here in Nevada, because most of us didn't grow up here and didn't go to UNLV. And it was important for the community and business leaders to get involved with the university, and I did from the very beginning. So over the 27 years that I've been involved with the university, I worked with 5 different presidents, and of course most of that time was as a volunteer. I chaired the UNLV Foundation Board of Trustees for 5 years. I co-chaired the one and only capital campaign that the university has had, that we finished at the end of 2009. So I've had a chance to get involved with the university in a lot of different ways, mostly from outside, but in the last 4 years from inside. And I have great appreciation for what the university is and what it needs to be for the community.
And I should also say Bank of Nevada also has been a major success story since you've been involved in that. So now, is there a lot of pressure now on you because of all these past successes to do something like that for UNLV?
Well, most of the pressure is self-induced. I mean, I have a tremendous passion for just helping to get things done, and there's a lot to get done. The university has grown a lot. I mean, since the time I got involved, I don't know what the student population was in 1987, but it was certainly less than 15,000 or so, and today we have roughly 28,000 students. But the university has progressed a lot in the last few years, but the opportunity is even greater. When I first came here, I came here with an understanding of what higher education is and what it means to a community, and so I came here with the concept that you can't have a great community without a great university. I will tell you that in the time that I've been on the inside of the university, I've come to realize it's more than that. You can't have a great community without a great university connected to that community. And so a lot of what my focus is on is making sure that the university is increasingly connected to the community, and it really cuts throughout the university. Our College of Education is doing some things with the Clark County School District that are very exciting things right now, much more extensive than we've done in the past. The medical school is clearly an example of a university that needs to elevate itself, and a medical school that can do that, but it also ties us to the community in terms of being able to solve community problems. And so those are the things that kind of float my boat, and I'm excited to be involved, even if it's in a transitional position. I'm always going to be involved with the university, just as I have been for the last 27 years. And so being the president for this period of time gives me some extra insight into the university. I think it'll help me when we do get a permanent president in place to work with that new president and help the university take the next couple of steps forward.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying about the synergy between the community and the university is, it demonstrates itself with gaming, with hospitality. I mean, the university. I mean, we thrive as a tourist mecca really because of what the university is doing. And you mentioned now the medical school. Correct me if I'm wrong. We're one of the largest metropolitan areas in the United States without a medical school.
Yeah, we've heard before. There are so many things that we're the largest community in North America that doesn't have something. That's what really started the dialogue with the Smith Center for the Performing Arts. I remember Steve Wynn standing up at a meeting in 1994 that a few of us attended and said, we're the largest community in North America that doesn't have its own world-class performing arts center, and we need to change that. But there are too many of those things, but one by one we need to knock them off. And so we are the largest metropolitan area in America that doesn't have its own public medical school, and it gets reflected in the numbers. It's not that we don't have good doctors and a good medical profession here. It's just that we don't have enough because we've grown so rapidly over the course of the last 25 years, and we don't have what other communities have in terms of being able to create medical professionals at the level that we need to. And so the medical school, more completely an academic medical center that connects with the community through the university, just allows us to deal with those challenges.
Now, some 20 or 30 years ago, when Reno, we had a university system made a decision to put a medical school in Reno. That was criticized a lot in southern Nevada. Why are we having a medical school in Reno? We need it more in Las Vegas. So can the state really support two of them?
Well, first of all, it was longer ago than that. I think it was in the 1970s that the School of Medicine opened in Reno. But the state was very different in 1970. I mean, there wasn't the difference in population to the extent that there is now. So yeah, there's been criticism, but I don't really factor that into our decisions today. Our decisions today are that this state, with the growth that we've had over the last 25 years, can support two. But it's really important for us to have one here in Las Vegas. I think that if you look at the University of Nevada School of Medicine, I think that given what they've had to work with, they've done a good job, but they haven't had the level of state support, they haven't had the level of philanthropic support, but most importantly, they haven't been in a metropolitan area that has the 2 million people that we have today. So I think that we have the opportunity, by having the School of Medicine based here in Las Vegas, to deal with all three of those opportunities in the right way, and connect with the community in terms of solving community problems in ways that generations from now will look back at this as one of the most important things that's happened for our university and for our community.
View Journal recently did an editorial about the medical school, saying that, you know, it's great to get a medical school, everybody's supportive of that, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless there's post-medical school, there's a residency program, and where the hospitals are really accepting the residents from the medical school, because it doesn't do us any good to try to develop doctors here in Las Vegas if they're going to go somewhere else for residencies, because doctors often then stay in the city where they're doing their residency.
Yeah, what's often referred to as graduate medical education when you talk about residencies. And in terms of short-term opportunities, that probably does represent a good short-term positive impact by just having more residencies in place. But it doesn't solve the structural needs that we have. And so in my mind, we need both undergraduate medical education, what the School of Medicine will provide, and residencies. And so it needs to go hand in hand. And I think that's the track that we're on. The budget that was just approved by the Board of Regents to be submitted to the governor and then to the legislature provides essentially the startup money for the new School of Medicine, so that we're prepared to take students in the fall of 2017. That is a major step forward, but we really do need to do both. We really need to focus on undergraduate medical education. That's a longer-term payback, but it's an investment we need to make today, and at the same time expand our graduate medical education, our residencies today.
Well, it seems, I mean, there's a lot of work involved. I remember when they were starting the law school.
Yeah.
You know, because once you get the funds, once you raise the money, once you put, you know, hire the people, get the facility, put it into place, you still have to get accredited, you have to, you know, meet certain criteria, and there's a process involved.
These are incredibly heavy lifts, as I say, because there are a lot of aspects to them. And I say all the time, it's easier not to do these things, whether it's the Smith Center, whether it's the law school, whether it's the School of Medicine. But the law school, the Boyd School of Law, provides a pretty good model for what we're talking about here. That school came out of the gates really strong, because there was good state support, there was good philanthropic support, and there was really good leadership in place. And so that School of Law, the Boyd School of Law, has served us as a community and as a state and as a university incredibly well. Our vision for the School of Medicine is very much the same. This has to be a high-quality program, and the editorial from the RJ that you referenced talks about that this just can't be a School of Medicine. This has to be a high-quality School of Medicine. My work with the Smith Center, a world-class performing arts center, informs that conversation as well. And so my commitment is to make sure that we do it right. The leadership that we have, our planning dean, Dr. Barbara Atkinson, is spectacular in terms of both her experience, her perspective, and her work ethic in terms of meeting with the community. She runs nonstop, meeting with members of the community, primarily the medical profession, to build an understanding of what we need so that that gets translated into the vision for the new medical school, but also builds the type of support that we need so that we have the private sector fully engaged in this public medical school.
Do you get resistance from the medical profession because there's now would be competition with more physicians graduating and staying in Las Vegas, and how does that work with the hospitals agreeing to provide these residency programs?
Yesterday, I had 3 separate presentations with people from the community, both medical professionals as well as non-medical professionals. A breakfast meeting, a luncheon meeting, and a dinner meeting. It was incredible, the support. First of all, the understanding of the need for this, but the support. And the support from the medical community, the way that they have embraced Dr. Atkinson has been spectacular. That was part of the conversation that we had last night, talking with a few of us, including people like Tony Marlin from the medical industry, the healthcare industry.
Right.
So the response has been incredibly good. But part of it is the philosophy that we have, and that is we're not going to come in and be an island. We're going to come in and we're going to be a catalyst for bringing the healthcare community together in a positive way. And if we do it right, it's another classic example of 1 + 1 = a lot more than 2. I'm a big believer in doing things that create synergy, and you can leverage one against another to do more. The 1 + 1 = a lot more than 2.
How large do you envision the medical school as far as students?
The first class we expect will be 60 students. It'll take a while to ramp up, but 180 students per year admitted into the program is what our expectation is, and to be there within the first 10 years of the School of Medicine.
You know, I've spoken to the law school dean, and I know that law school, the admissions in law schools have gone down over the years. Nationally, we're talking.
Right.
So that's become a challenge for law schools, I guess, becoming more competitive in their admissions. Is medical school in the same kind of loop or not?
It's going the other way right now, because the healthcare industry is going through a lot of changes. A lot of the doctors are reaching a point in their life and their career where they're going to retire. So the expectation, the demand, the work that we've done to look at the feasibility of a new medical school really points to the fact that it's not just the need here in southern Nevada, but more nationally. There is a shortage of doctors. There's going to be an increasing shortage of doctors, and so the dynamic is very different from what we're seeing in the law school.
And how does that work with the Obamacare? I mean, is that then it create opportunity for more physicians and a need for more physicians? I guess for GPs, huh?
It does, but it's more broad based than just GPs. I mean, primary care. I mean, I think in terms of primary care here in Southern Nevada, we're ranked 46th out of the 50 states in terms of the number of primary care doctors relative to the population. But the specialists is where we are much more lacking in terms of meeting the needs of the community. That's what the public medical school will do, is allow us to meet those needs, both on the primary side, but more importantly, on the areas of specialty care where we have people that either can't get care or have to go someplace else. And a lot of people can't afford to go outside the state for that care.
So how will that work with the university? Will they have certain specialties that will generate those specialists here in Nevada, but you can't obviously do all the specialties.
No, we can't, but we can have a residency. We will have a basic core academic program that focuses on certain specialties, but then the residencies, what you were talking about before, become very important. And so that's where we need to work with the community, the medical community, the healthcare community more broadly, and look for ways to leverage what we're doing with what they're doing. And there's also an element of research that's extremely important. What a public medical school can do is bring a lot more research that connects us to the problems that we have in the community and allow us to work with a lot of the healthcare professionals that are here today and to substantially elevate the quantity and quality of what we do.
And I applaud you because for a couple of years we're talking about how important a new stadium was at UNLV, and you've kind of like said, hey, let's let's do the medical school first. That's our priority. That's our focus.
Sure.
The stadium can wait a little bit.
Well, the stadium is something that I also have a passion about because I see a need, and that's a business deal more than an athletic deal, and I see it providing a long-term benefit to both the community but to the university because we can connect it with the community. It's a good example of the university connecting to the community. But there's only so many heavy lifts that we can do, and it's more than just money. It's the amount of time, the amount of energy, and the amount of passion that you need to do these projects. And so it became clear to me that, and especially with the approval of the initial budget by the Board of Regents, that now is the time for us to focus on the School of Medicine. There is nothing that I have seen in my 27 years in working with the university that will be more important, more critical to the university, but also where the university can do more for the community than the medical school. So the timing is really the issue. The stadium, I consider that it needs to be done and it will be done, but we just need to time it right.
How difficult is it to raise the money that you need from the state? I mean, you're talking about tax revenues. The governor's now called a special session for Tesla to maybe give them upwards to $1 billion in benefits, tax benefits.
Yeah.
I mean, if we put that kind of money into a medical school, we'd be okay, right?
Well, first of all, I think that the medical school gives you an opportunity with a relatively modest amount of state dollars to create a lot of opportunities to get both federal funding in terms of research dollars, but also philanthropic support. Because of what a School of Medicine does and how it solves problems, philanthropy is an opportunity for us and an obligation for us in terms of being able to do the right things. So if you look at the initial 2-year funding that we're asking the governor and the legislature to support, it's $26.7 million for that 2 years to get to the point where we can take our first students. That School of Medicine, as it gets close to a maturity, will be generating something close to $50 million per year in federal research dollars that come in from the outside that help us elevate the School of Medicine. At the same time, philanthropy will be a much larger component than either the state or the federal funding. A naming opportunity for a School of Medicine today, if you look at the new generation of schools of medicine, generally runs between $100 and $200 million for a naming opportunity. So I would love to see us have a name on this School of Medicine in conjunction with UNLV that gives us that type of funding support. And if we can do that, we have leveraged those state dollars in a very, very positive way, and that's what our goal is.
Or maybe the legislature should make a deal with Elon Musk and have a naming opportunity at the same time and make a deal for Tesla. So you have to go out then and meet with potential donors that have that kind of money. It can't be that many in town.
When you talk about naming opportunities, obviously the list is fairly short, right. But I'm encouraged that there is a list, but we haven't had those conversations yet. It's time for us to have those conversations. We wanted to get the budget approved by the Board of Regents because that's a foundational aspect of a project like this. And so with that in place, it's now time for us to start talking with those in the community that can do a naming opportunity, but there's a lot of other opportunities to be involved in, and that process is just getting started. But by the time we get to the legislature, I would hope that we would have significant private sector philanthropy dedicated for the School of Medicine.
Well, it's overwhelming how much time you have to put into these things. What else is going on at the university? I mean, this could consume 40 hours a week in and of itself.
Well, you've heard a lot of the conversation about being a Carnegie Research Very High, what we've characterized as a Tier 1 institution. That in and of itself is a heavy lift. The School of Medicine, fortunately, fits under that umbrella. The stadium fits under that umbrella. But we're going through a process right now during this academic year to understand where we are relative to being a Carnegie Research Very High, Tier 1 institution, so that we can properly calibrate, we can properly have strategies that allow us to position this university for success going forward. To become a Tier 1 institution is not going to happen overnight. I characterize it much more as a marathon, not a sprint. It's a multi-year effort, but we're going through a process during this academic year to understand where we are, what we need to do, and what are the core strategies that need to be in place. That, I think, is going to help both the university and the next president have a better foundation on which to move forward. But that in and of itself is a heavy lift. But as I say, fortunately, the School of Medicine is part of that. But then we have the normal things that happen at a university. We had a wonderful fall semester in terms of enrollments. We have a record number of new freshman students, 4,000 freshman students. We have 2,000 transfers. So if you look at the new freshmen and the transfers, it's the largest group of new students ever in the history of UNLV starting school, and that has just happened here in the last few weeks. We have more than 100 new faculty members. I had a wonderful opportunity to spend time with them and see the quality of the faculty members that have been added to this university. So we have a lot of things going on. All of these things are heavy lifts, but it's really part of helping this university get to the place where it can do more for our community and create a stronger bond between the university and the community.
I know the Clark County School District has had challenges recruiting faculties because they need so many, and you got to get people, faculty, to move to Las Vegas. It's quite a process. Does the university have the same kind of challenge, or is it different when you're dealing with university faculty compared to public school?
Well, first of all, the numbers are smaller for the university than they are for the Clark County School District. The numbers are staggering at the Clark County School District. But one of the things that we're doing, we have a relatively new dean of the School of Education, College of Education, Dean Kim Metcalf. He joined us just over a year ago. He's done a wonderful job of creating a stronger bond and relationship between the university and the Clark County School District to deal with that issue that you're talking about in terms of having enough teachers to be able to fill those vacancies. And so there's wonderful things going on there. We have a new master's program in educational leadership that is being introduced in the spring of this year that is specifically to help develop principles for the Clark County School District and others, but really for the Clark County School District. So that's another good example of creating a bond between the university and the community.
Our time has just flown by. I don't know where you get the energy for this. Hey, but meanwhile, you tell your legislators, right? Vote for that medical school, right? Make it happen this session.
It's a really big deal. It's the most important thing that we can do right now.
Okay, let's make that medical school happen. Thank you very much, Don Snyder.
My pleasure.